Hey everyone! What if I told you that some of the most common advice for being a good manager is, well, kind of wrong? Today, we're going to take a hard look at a really popular leadership style, uncover some of its hidden dangers, and then explore a totally different way of thinking, one that completely redefines what it means to lead a team to success. So, for all you managers out there, let's just start with a really direct question. Is it possible that your drive to help and support your team is actually the very thing holding them back? I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a super important question to ask yourself. And this leads us right into what we're calling the servant leader trap. It's this whole management philosophy that honestly sounds amazing on paper, but in practice, it can have some really surprising and not so great side effects.
So what exactly is servant leadership? Well, at its core, the whole idea is that a leader's main job is to serve their team. They're always on the lookout, trying to see problems coming down the pike, and then working like crazy to clear any and all obstacles out of their team's way. The goal is to make everything run as smoothly as possible for them.
A really great analogy for this is the curling parent. You know the type, right? They're frantically sweeping the ice in front of the stone to make sure it has a perfectly smooth, obstacle-free path to the target. It's the exact same logic. Anticipate needs, sweep away obstacles, make the journey totally frictionless. But it really makes you wonder, what happens when the sweeper isn't there anymore?
And that's exactly where the unintended consequences pop up. The leader, they become this massive bottleneck, this single point of failure for everything. The team never develops their own problem-solving muscles, because why would they? They've never had to. They end up kind of isolated, only seeing the rest of the company through their manager. They can even lose track of their own purpose without that constant direction. You're basically building a very, very fragile system.
Okay, so if that's the trap, how do you get out of it? Well, the answer is a totally new approach called transparent leadership, and it's designed specifically to build a stronger, more resilient team from the very beginning.
The whole idea here is to just completely shift your focus. So instead of serving your team by removing all the obstacles, the goal is to empower your team to figure out how to navigate those obstacles all by themselves.
And listen, this isn't just some vague, feel-good concept. It's a real practical framework. It's built on 8 core principles that will systematically help you create a team that can pretty much run itself.
Okay, let's quickly run through these. First, you stop being a director and you become a coach. Then you become a connector. You link people directly to who or what they need, instead of you being the middleman for everything. You don't just solve problems for them, you actually teach them a methodical way to solve problems themselves. You explain the why, the company values, so they can make their own smart decisions. And then, this is where it gets really fun. You start handing off actual leadership tasks. You are constantly training your own replacement, and the final ultimate goal, to make yourself redundant. Yeah, you heard that right.
And that right there brings us to the most counterintuitive and maybe the most powerful idea in this entire explainer. What if the real measure of a great manager isn't about how much their team needs them, but how much they don't? I mean, seriously, just let that sink in for a second. What if your main objective, your true north as a leader, was to make your team so good, so capable, so independent that for all the day-to-day stuff, they just don't need you anymore?
You know that old stereotype of the middle manager who doesn't seem to do anything useful? We usually laugh at it, but what if it's actually the ideal we should be striving for? Of course, the point isn't to stop working. The real key is what you choose to do with all that time you've just freed up by empowering your team.
See, once a leader has successfully made themselves redundant in the day-to-day operations, 2 very different paths open up. And your next chapter as a leader is totally defined by which one of these you choose.
So on one side, you have the paper shuffler. This manager gets nervous with all their free time, so they start inventing new work, asking for pointless status reports, and adding layers of bureaucracy just to feel busy and important. But then you have the high-powered spare worker. This manager uses their freedom to jump back into valuable technical work. They keep their own skills sharp, they solve tough problems, and they earn even more respect from their team. They're adding real value, not friction.
And this quote just puts it perfectly. The goal isn't to become obsolete, it's to evolve. You literally transform from being a manager of tasks into a strategic, high-impact resource that can help the whole organization.
So if there's just one thing you take away from all this today, let it be this. That old, traditional idea of being the indispensable hero leader, it might just be broken. True, modern leadership is all about empowerment. It's about building a system, a culture, and a team that is so strong it can absolutely thrive even when you're not around.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to chew on. What's one little step you can take this week, one task you could delegate, one connection you could make for a teammate, one skill you could teach that moves you just a tiny bit closer to making yourself, in the best possible way, redundant?